the Taproot Wizards NFT collection just sold out for over $25 million, with people paying as much as $26,000 to get their very own wizard. Sounds crazy, right? So what's this all about? Well, I'm A Fox, and I've been in the Web3 space for many years now, building software and teaching people about the space. And today I wanted to discuss Taproot Wizards, the NFT collection that, as I just said, sold for many millions. So in the next few minutes, I'll explain the history of the Wizards, what they're about, and how the situation is looking for them now. So the Taproot Wizards were created from the minds of Udi Wertenheimer and Eric Wall. That's these two guys here, right, in this picture, along with the artist Mavenspot, and were first announced back in February 2023, just after the Ordinals protocol was introduced by Casey Rodarmore in January 23. Casey created the Ordinals protocol, right? Now, if you don't know what the Bitcoin Ordinals are, I suggest reading this post I wrote back in 2023 about them that you can find in this by clicking through here. However, to just be succinct, they are essentially NFTs on Bitcoin, right? Now, the Wizards team historically inscribed their very first wizard, wizard number 1, on the Bitcoin blockchain in a 3.96 megabyte block, the largest inscription ever. Inscribing is how Ordinals works, and it's essentially putting something on chain, right? So they put this wizard on chain, and they did it at a size that had never been done before, reaching almost Bitcoin's 4 megabyte block limit, right? Udi and Eric's collection was inspired by this old and iconic wizard meme created on a Bitcoin subreddit back in 2013 by their artist, Mavenspot. Obviously, he didn't know he was going to be involved in this project 10 years before that, right? But he made this art. It's credited with popularizing the meme of Bitcoin being magic internet money, right? And the collection was created with 2,121 wizards, or 2121 wizards, as a nod to Bitcoin's 21 million coin supply cap. And they were all put on chain in early inscriptions, because in inscriptions the number of the inscription is considered important, how early it was done, right? And every inscription has a number. They then revealed the collection in February 18th, 2023, exactly 10 years after the original meme, this one, was on that Bitcoin subreddit. And this is what the wizards look like. They look silly, right? And fun. And the project's name itself, Taproot Wizards, is a mix of the wizard meme and the Taproot upgrade to Bitcoin that allowed Ordinals to be created in the first place. So it's this wizard meme and Taproot, which was an upgrade that happened back in 2021. The Wizards were one of the first big Ordinals projects out there, so there's been a big build-up over the past couple of years as people have waited for them to actually be released. And last week, after over 2 years since the collection was originally put on chain, the Wizards were finally minted or sold and sent to their new rightful owners, right? So yeah, pretty big deal, right? Now, before we continue, if you want to learn how to grow real lasting wealth through crypto and access over $1,900 worth of courses entirely for free, where you can learn, understand this stuff a lot deeper, then click in the link in the description below. Now, the project, importantly, has a deep mission, which in their words is to make Bitcoin magical again and push Bitcoin to be more than a store of value, which is its main, importance, right? And they would do that the key thing they do that is by upgrading it with an additional operator known as Opcat. Now, a whole video could be made about Opcat itself, and maybe I will at some point. But essentially, Opcat is a Bitcoin script operator that was removed by Satoshi, the creator of Bitcoin, himself back in 2010 due to security risks. Bitcoin was released in 2019, so 2010 it wasn't that much. It was only the year after, and every Bitcoin has with it a tiny bit of code that defines how that Bitcoin can be spent. It's what allows that Bitcoin to be owned by an individual, for example. And Opcat allows more complex things to be done with that tiny script, so you can do more interesting logic with the with that Bitcoin, right? OPCAT the cat stands for concatenation, which is simply, sticking two things together. So for example, an OPCAT of ABCXYZ would produce ABCXYZ, right? ABCXYZ stick together ABCXYZ. While this sounds basic, it'd be a powerful building block that would enable more complex logic in that Bitcoin script I was describing. With OPCAT, developers could create what they call covenants that effectively set more interesting limitations and logic on how that Bitcoin can be spent. This is essential for Bitcoin L2s, layer 2s on top of Bitcoin, and would allow DeFi-like functionality to be built into the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is very limited today. It's not really possible in the same way as it is Ethereum, Solana, and all the other ecosystems, right? Importantly, the security risks that Satoshi was originally concerned about have already been mitigated with the Taproot upgrade. So there's a very real chance today that OPCAT could make its way back into Bitcoin safely, right? And the potential of this change is huge. We'd see Bitcoin go beyond just being, as I said, like store of value or digital gold, which is the main way people see it, to digital gold with more complex programmable capabilities. And it's really the Taproot Wizards team who are responsible for putting the reactivation of OPCAT on the radar, right? But it's important to note that upgrades to Bitcoin are slow because it's a decentralized technology. It's not just one individual who makes these decisions. So it's hard to know when this upgrade may happen. Now, although the Taproot Wizards team inscribed the Wizards on chain in 2023, they didn't immediately mint or sell them, right? In fact, they kept leading people on for the past couple of years, and it seemed like the mint was never going to happen. In the meantime, they raised a seed round of 7.5 million and a Series A round of 30 million. So they raised a bunch of money from private investors to help fulfill their vision so far. They also released a sub-collection before the Wizards known as the Quantum Cats as a play on OpCat, right? That the operator that they want to get into Bitcoin. The collection has 3,333 cats that look like this. Also quite silly, in comparison to in a similar vein to the Wizards, and they sold them all in February 2024, raising over $13 million for the team. So in total, they raised over 50 million when you add up all of that money. And I've written a post before about the Quantum Cats and some of the most interesting properties here. For anyone who wants to check out, they can come to this post and click through. Right now, over the years, the Taproot Wizards project also built out this kind of cult-like community with their Wizard School on Discord, keeping people entertained through wacky quests that would eventually earn the opportunity to mint their own wizard. Right. And these quests birthed many funny moments, like people in wizard costumes taking cold showers. Let's just take a look here.
Shout Wizard Money Gang, they love casting spells.
Yeah, there's a lot of these very entertaining and odd things that the community have done over the last couple of years. It's a huge list, right? That's just an example. There were 5 quests in total, and they all culminated with the mint, or the sale, that finally happened last week. So after waiting for over 2 years, the Taproot Wizard team finally released mint details last month on the 11th of March. As you can see in this post, the mint price was 0.2 BTC. You could either get it by holding a dead, so Quantum Cats had 2 types of cats, right? And you'd have to have a dead and an alive cat, and you would be able to get a whitelist for it by entangling these cats, sending them to them, because quantum entanglement is a concept, right? So there's a bunch of plays on the words here. So you get a dead cat and a live cat, and you entangle them together to give you access to a wizard for 0.1 BTC. Which is around $8,000. Top support, people who had been doing quests and the rest could also get in for whitelist for 0.2 BTC, with some of them having been given the 0.2 BTC already, and the remaining wizards would be sold through a Dutch auction. right? Which I'll get onto. Now, the whitelist mint, which included the first groups, the 0.1 BTCs and 0.2 BTCs, was a real success, and they sold 1,660 of the 1,750 they were looking to sell in that mint, right? Some people had to wait a long time, as long as 1 hour for the mint to go through, because Bitcoin's, it's got slow block times, which means block confirmations take a while, right? And the reveal only really happened at the end. But despite Bitcoin's limitations, the whitelist mint was a success. And then the remaining 90 wizards from 1,660 were minted. That was out of 1,750. The remaining 90 went on sale 2 days later on March 27th, where the price started at 0.42 BTC and eventually all was sold for 0.31 BTC. So a Dutch auction, the way it works is you have a bidding price and it keeps dropping, and once all of the items have been sold, that is the price that everyone pays. So if someone actually tried to buy it at the higher price, they get the remainder of that money back. So those 90 wizards were bought around 0.31 BTC, which is around $26,000, right? And that was a success. By all metrics, this was a very successful mint. $25 million, people paying, $25,000, $26,000, $16,000, $8,000 for these Wizard NFTs, right? Now, there's been a running joke from Udi and the team that nobody wants wizards, right? And it's because they've kind of pushed out the mint so far down the line. And the mint website was even called nobodywants.taprootwizards.com. However, perhaps this joke has formed some form of self-fulfilling prophecy. The Taproot Wizard team certainly picked an odd moment to run this mint, because the crypto market's in a bit of a lull due to just overall macroeconomic uncertainty with all the things that the Trump administration is doing. And since the mint, we've seen Taproot Wizards and Quantum Cats take a big hit on the floor price, which is the lower price that you can sell them at, right? Although 90 wizards were minted for as much as 0.31 BTC, we're now at around 0.15 BTC per wizard, which is over 50% dropped, right? You can see here like 0.15, some 0.16, etc. So it's dropped significantly, right? Meanwhile, the cats had a staggering drop too, to 0.045 BTC floor, which is pretty bad considering the cats once were over 0.3 BTC, and right before the mint they were around 0.13 BTC each. So they've had a significant drop as well. So people who've been involved have generally kind of gotten burnt. It's honestly not been a good start for this incredibly hyped Taproot Wizards mint. However, when you look at it from the project's perspective, they've now cumulatively raised over $75 million. So you'd imagine there's a lot of potential for the project and for where the team might take it. Importantly, we've yet to see OpCat implemented into Bitcoin, and the wizards are likely steadily building in the background for when that day comes, right? Right now, it just seems though that the whole market's kind of in a bad place, so that might be why they're struggling, or perhaps it was indeed a self-fulfilling prophecy that nobody wanted wizards. Only time will tell. But right now, it's not looking so good for the wizards, at least for the holders. Meanwhile, for the project owners, they've successfully raised a lot of money, so there's still a lot of potential. And yeah, if you want to learn, as I said earlier from the top, how to grow lasting wealth through crypto and access over $1,900 worth of courses entirely for free to understand a lot more about what's going on and all this crazy stuff, then click in the link in the description below and I'll see you there.